Clients who are attending school oftentimes experience a need for childcare services while attending classes. It is our job to maintain current information with regards to the school schedule and update the enrollment information as needed. The changes are oftentimes known and initiated by us, as opposed to the client calling to report it. In this example, our client's case is shown up in the Case Change workbasket for follow-up on a school schedule. We will begin by sending the client a 90F requesting a copy of the printed school schedule for the current term. A copy is sent to the client and one is maintained in the case file. Again, the client will have 10 days to return the school schedule from the date we are sending the 90F. We are reinforcing the end date in this bottom paragraph by advising the client if the information is not returned, then we will need to take actions to terminate the case. In KICS, we need to make a history note that indicates what we are requesting from the client. We will also update our managed case change date to the due date that we have given the client so that we can track the information when it comes due. Once the schedule has been returned, we want to review the information provided and determine what kind of changes need to be made in the case. Looking in KICS, it appears as if we will need to add hours per week for this new schedule. As we look at the schedule, the client is going to school 1 hour on Monday and Friday, and about 1 hour on Tuesdays and Thursdays. On Wednesday, the client is going to school for about 2.5 hours, for a total of 6.5 hours per week. We will need to update KICS with this information. Additionally, we need to evaluate what kind of change this school schedule will have on the client's enrollment information. Looking at the current 94, we can see that the client is already approved for 5 full days. This new school information will not affect the enrollment information in any way at this point. Since this update will ultimately have no effect on the case, we will use the date the information was returned as the interview date. We need to remove the case change date and move on to the Training and Education screen. Here we will select the active facility name and make the appropriate changes to the hours per week and the start date. You're going to click Save and Add New, and then move on to the Eligibility Process screen. Assign eligibility to each of the children, and our reason will be work and education training. At the eligibility summary, we want to verify that our hours per week have been added and it is rounded up to the nearest full hour, and select Finish. At Documents Needed, there should be no changes with the copay, and the effective date will be the same as the interview date. Our reason for copay change will be no change in copay, and we will select No Documents Needed for each child. From here, we will move back to Case Summary. If this information had resulted in a change in the enrollment schedule, you would need to proceed to the Enrollment Summary screen and make the changes to the schedule as demonstrated in the previous video. Complete the 105 advising the client of continued case approval and that the case was reviewed because of a school schedule change. Advise the client of what we are counting as their household size and what their total countable income is. Make a copy for the client and also one for the case file. As always, make a detailed note indicating what information you received and how you used it to update the case. Be sure to enter a managed case change date for the end of the current term so that you can follow up with next term's schedule. Print your history notes from the start of the case action until its completion and place in the case record on top of the documentation used to complete the change. Place the files in actives. This case change has now been completed.